Hello, beautiful people. Uh, so the last video I made was about AI, natural intelligence, and universal intelligence. And yeah, seemed like a bunch of you were actually interested in this topic, and I got some interesting comments and some replies. And so a few of you asked me to elaborate on actually each one of these topics. So today I'm going to be talking about natural intelligence, like what I think about it, how I think about it, and how I think about one of the most optimum ways of utilizing it, of sorts. So yeah, to start with, there different parts of natural intelligence. Uh, Today, probably I'm just going to talk about two of them. One is like the storytelling part of it, which is where your brain generates a narrative of what is currently happening, and the other is the emotional one, where there is a emotion that is being generated and experienced in the whole body. Okay, so to start with, coming to the narrative side of things, the way I have noticed, mm, like your brain, which is computing everything that is happening in your reality, after taking in the input information, what it does is it presents to you a story of what is actually currently going on. Okay, now before I go into like looking more into the depth of like what are the kinds of stories and how they impact us, uh, I would like to talk about this whole idea of like fundamentally when you think about tools, one of the things that exists is the ability to use them when you want to and not use them when you don't need them. Now, to give you an example, like if you have a radio in your house, so ancient sort of an example, but yeah, say yeah, like the radio can be used to tune into some really nice music, and then you can listen to that and enjoy that. But on the other hand, if this radio is on all the time, and rather than giving you nice, pleasant music to listen to, what it does is it gives you just these crappy ads all the time. And it's just like telling you about all these products and whatever. And as your life is progressing, like this radio is just always on. Now, that would be a very unpleasant radio to have in your room or in your house. And in the very same way, with the mind as well, it's an amazing tool which can do phenomenal things. But one must have the ability that when you don't need it, when it is not relevant, then it should just kind of be quiet and turn off. And yeah, so that's a very fundamental thing that should exist with, when you think about natural intelligence as a tool as well. Okay, now coming to the next thing where yeah, I said I'm going to talk about the kinds of narratives and how they impact us. So depending on whatever is going on in your reality, like your mind will how do I say, come up with stories to tell you about what is currently happening. Now there are different kinds of stories that your mind is going to generate and tell you. Now, if you have the ability to classify these stories rather than getting completely involved in them in that moment, uh, that is a very powerful thing. So, and also what happens is once you are able to classify these stories into different categories, it also gives you a sense of spaciousness where you are able to disconnect and not be so deeply immersed in whatever drama is playing on in your life. Now, coming to the kinds of stories that your brain generates for you. Uh, some thorny plants here, so I'm not going to go there. Yeah. So the kind of stories that they generate, well, so, the first one is threat. What are the kinds of potential threats that exist to me? Like just now, I experienced some thorns, which was a relevant part of my here and now reality. But now, what happens is that sometimes the mind is really good at generating these stories, independent of like whether it's actually a thing or not. It can derive that sort of a story from whatever is going on. You know? It's like so. The first kind of narrative that we are very familiar with is this threat narrative of all the kind of potential things that could go wrong in this moment in time. And now that's one kind of a story or narrative that your mind generates for you. Now, another kind of a story or narrative that your mind can generate for you is like a pleasure narrative, which is, yeah, how can I sort of get more pleasure? You know, like, and in which case, maybe we use objects or people or like food or anything. No, it's like, and we try to identify all the potential sources of pleasure in my here and now reality, and then try to see what I can get out of that. Now, and the third one I would say is like a control narrative, that how can I have like a greater degree of control over the situation and people in my reality, and I then see people and situations from that light, that, oh, okay, like this person is like threatening my ability to control these things, and I should like do that and get this. And one side of it is that how can I get more degrees of control over situations and people in my reality. But another side of it is also about how, when someone else tries to control me and I don't like that, and how do I thwart it, how do I fight it, how do I dissuade it, discourage it, and all of that kind of stuff. Now, one of the things that happens in uh, all these three kind of narratives is that we tend to treat other people as objects that we would like to manipulate in order to get what we want. Like if I'm in a threat, how do I save myself? And in order to do that, like whatever I need to do to anyone else, you know. And what I've noticed is that this tends to actually diminish the quality of your life and the kind of results that you get when we engage in this sort of a behavior. And once we are able to sort of move away from this sort of a behavior, we're finally able to probably move to a different kind of a system where the mind is a lot more relaxed. Like it doesn't have to get activated for everything. Like suppose if I'm just sitting over here by myself and everything is fine, it's like the weather is amazing, the view is awesome, and I can just sit, chill, relax, and but my mind doesn't need to start generating something in one of these kind of lines. But if it does, and I'm sitting here and my brain starts to like move in some pleasure direction, or it's starting to think in some control direction, that oh, that person said this to me, how could he, and it's like if they start doing this, how will I, and it goes into all of those narratives. One thing that I can do to help myself get out of that situation is to realize that, oh, this is what's happening at this moment, like this narrative is being generated, which is actually not that relevant to my here and now reality. Okay, now that's one. And once that's able to happen, like once you're able to like do that, over time, you might be able to move into another kind of a functioning of your mind, where you might have a more understanding narrative, where rather than you're looking at people as threats and objects that you can manipulate and control, you can start to realize that, oh, like this is what they are playing out in their own you know internal dynamics, and this is why they're doing what they're doing, and then you can understand where they're coming from. And as you genuinely understand certain things about people, then you're able to have a deeper connection with the people, events, and situations in your reality. You're able to connect at a deeper level, and you're able to have a more relaxed sort of an experience, where in a calm, relaxed way you're able to enter a particular moment, experience it, and interact with it. So yeah, that's on the narrative side of things. Now coming to the emotion side of things, like what I would say is that emotions are also a very it's a complex signaling mechanism, and it's a biochemical system of sorts, maybe biochemical, electrical, I don't know. But yeah, so what happens now is that suppose there is like a mm, bison charging towards you or something like that. Now in that moment, there is a very real threat to your survival. And there is and when you talk about you are a complex being. Like you have organs, limbs, and there's so many different functions which are happening inside your body. Regeneration and energy distribution, and all these things have to happen. Like there are probably 100 trillion cells which are coordinating to make you. Now in order for this coordination to happen, there is this emotional intelligence dynamic, right? And what happens with that is where now when you perceive that there is this threat that is coming in my direction, uh, you can see that okay, now the body needs to react really fast to all of that. And the way it does that is, like, for example, it will send in this rush of, say, adrenaline or cortisol or things like that, which then signal different information to different parts and systems of your body. Like it will send a signal to your heart to start pumping in a certain way, and it will send a signal to different parts of your bloodstream, that where should the flow become more intense, where should the flow become less intense. Now all of these things are happening in a split second. Like you just looked at that bison charging towards you, and so many of these things started to happen. Now obviously, evolutionarily speaking, this has a phenomenal or tremendous amount of benefit, obviously, which is why evolution chose to use this mechanism. uh, but now coming to our circumstances, what I've realized is that oftentimes, the way we actually behave with our reality and what is going on, there's a sort of a lack of sync. By that what I mean is, like, instead of having like a bison that is potentially going to kill you charging towards you, like you might have a boss who walks into a boardroom, and you might start already feeling tense. Or if you're a student and you've just gone into like the place where you're going to have a viva exam or something like that, and then you already start getting tense. Now in that situation, what you notice is that all of these systems are also getting activated. Like say there's this spike of cortisol and adrenaline, and then physically all of those things are happening, but it doesn't really match with your reality. Now, so what does that actually mean for me? How do I use it to my advantage? How do I understand it? I would say it's important to understand that what is the purpose of some of these emotions, how did they come about, what do they serve, and realize when is it actually relevant, when is it not relevant for you. And so roughly speaking, I would say when we are not in life threatening situations, and which is actually almost all the time, because in our modern society, very rarely do people actually face like life and death situations, maybe a couple of times in a lifetime or something. But yeah, it's good to realize that unless those things are happening where I'm like drowning or something, or I'm being attacked by something, like what you can realize is that being in this emotionally charged state actually hampers the way in which you can effectively interact with your reality and situations. So in that sense, what we can do is uh, maybe different breathing techniques, you know, or you can also bring your awareness to your heart and then see, how your heartbeat is fluctuating, and realize that when your heartbeat is fluctuating, maybe that's not the right time to do certain things. And you can just pause, calm down, bring your awareness to your heartbeat, and wait until you've come back to the center and you're finally like calm and relaxed, because the situation doesn't really require you to be not calm. Like you're not being attacked by a chimpanzee or like a jaguar or something, right? Like uh, maybe you're being verbally attacked by your friend. And in that situation also, like if you get emotionally charged up, what happens is that your efficiency as an organism or a being will go down because you're not responding in the most optimal way. And what you can do is, once you calm down, relax, come back to the center, then you can see more, you can perceive more. And as you see more, as you perceive more, you are able to also come up with better, you know uh, solutions to the here and now challenges of your life. Yeah, so I think that's about it from me for today's topic. And if you guys have any other questions from me, please do ask, and I will be happy to expand on them. And so I will also be making a video on AI very soon. And yeah, I will also talk about, like, I think there was a comment where I was asked to talk about some examples of, collaborating with the universe. So I will be making a video on that as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you watched till here, wow, amazing. You guys have a wonderful time, and see you guys in the next one. Bye.